We didn't do the Pledge of Allegiance yesterday.
Okay.
So I'll call this meeting to order at 7:03 p.m. Excuse me. Okay, so we are here to begin the interviews for Susan Kuska and then Jeff Sands. So why don't we just get started with Susan?
How are you?
Hi, Susan.
I just messed up with the copy. Take it away.
Yeah, so he's going to hand right off to Carrie Gertz, our assistant chair.
Assistant?
I don't know.
Vice
chair. I like vice.
I questioned it every time I said it yesterday. Good evening. Welcome. My name is Carrie Gertz. I'm the Vice Chair of the Hamilton-Wenham Regional School Committee, and I will be facilitating the interview tonight. We have allotted 45 minutes for you to answer questions. I will say that we have 7 questions, and at the end, if there's time remaining, you will have the opportunity to give either a closing statement or add any information that you think is important for us to know that maybe you hadn't addressed already. Okay. So could you just... They're laughing because I'm an attorney and I ask questions all day long, and I started off the first interview last night a little aggressive, I think.
State your name.
Please state your name.
For the record.
Could you tell us who you are, please?
Am I under oath?
No. What is your name?
I'm Susan Kuska.
You want to tell us a little bit about yourself?
Yes. So as you can tell from my resume, I won't go through all of that with you because you have it in front of you, I'm sure. I've been an educator for 25 years, and I'm very passionate about it. I like to say that I didn't know growing up in Boston Public Schools what I wanted to do when I grew up. In fact, I was really discouraged from getting an education at the time. And I'm very grateful that I had a child young, even though it was challenging, because having that child made me realize about my passion for working with children. I had always done that growing up. And I say that education found me as a young mom. So I went back to school, wanted to be an elementary educator, and it turned out that I was found by special needs, and I did that for a number of years, but I did want to go back into the elementary classroom and use all my skills as a special educator. I think when I first started out in education, it wasn't an occurrence of mine that I might become a leader. I'm a lot more outgoing than I was when I was a youngster. And as time went on, I started to develop my leadership skills as a teacher, taking on a lot of responsibilities for curriculum positions, technology liaison. I was on the report card committee, the science, just all kinds of, I volunteered for everything, and it just started to develop all my leadership skills in that way. And I went on to become an assistant principal and then a director of teaching and learning. When I realized that as assistant principal I was already ready to be beyond that level and started applying, my superintendent created the director of teaching and learning position. We didn't have curriculum leadership in the district, and I worked very hard to develop that role prior to my current role in Weymouth. One of the things as I've gone on to develop my skills, I realize that I have a lot to give back, and I really feel part of my job as a superintendent is to mentor staff and students and inspire them to be the best that they can be. And that's really, one of the things I want to do as a leader, help develop the vision and mission of the entity that I work in, and hopefully, while this is a temporary position, I think the skills that I would gain and be able to share and keep your district going smoothly for the year that I was here would be very exciting for me to have that opportunity. So I thank you very much for inviting me to be here today.
Thank you. Could you tell us why you applied for this position?
Yes, and I think I indicated in my cover letter that while it was temporary, I've been looking to become a superintendent for about the time when I started getting my dissertation and finishing my doctoral program was when I really started thinking about I really need to move on. I'm very goal-driven and very motivated and very resilient. And I have really been aspiring to be a superintendent. And even though I would like to have a permanent position, certainly looking at your district and looking at the regional schools, and there's so many exciting things about it. Certainly the number of students would be exciting to me. It's a smaller population, and I love the idea, while I work in a district with about 6,000 students and 12 buildings, I feel like I'm never able to give as much time and energy to all the buildings as I would like to. For example, today I was visiting 2 buildings. I had planned to visit 4. I got to 2. And, obviously, when you're working in a smaller district, to be able to be visible and out and about all the time, supporting and mentoring the principals and providing the ongoing coaching opportunities that they need as well. And I just feel that this would provide me that opportunity to even grow professionally more and then hopefully lead to a permanent position as a superintendent in the future.
Based on what you've learned about our district, what would be your top 3 goals during your interim superintendency?
I think that's the challenge with an interim because a lot of times interims are expected to kind of keep the ship steady, and I think that would be an important aspect of the role. But I also would want to make sure that I was out enough to understand whether there were things that needed to be worked on, certainly not letting anything fester that needed some time and energy. And I have a lot of capacity in many, I've worn many hats in the district, such as, I've overseen the capital plan with our maintenance department. I've supervised and evaluated many of our department heads, transportation, food services, coordinator of health services, and then as well as many principals. So certainly I have the capability to keep all the aspects of an educational leadership opportunity moving along, but also making sure that I'm managing all the pieces to the puzzle because I have both aspects of that. I really enjoy curriculum work and professional development and supporting staff with that. So there are going to be some areas that I would like to try to develop. I think coming in, in the summer, a lot of the things that would be in place for next year have already been decided. So I would want to, get a good sense of where I could kind of set my mark in place and support people in the best way forward, moving forward, because unfortunately, when you come in July, you don't get the opportunity to develop the vision with the staff, but making sure that I'm helping to implement and support staff in all the areas of development professionally. And I find that this is true of all the districts I've been in. Social emotional learning is a really big concern. I think that's nationwide. We're seeing a lot of trauma-sensitive students. While your district demographics are much different than the districts that I'm currently working, I still see that as a priority for, I think, every single district. I've seen that as a priority, and I have a lot of background in trauma-sensitive schools and social emotional learning, so I would want to see, how I could help maybe grow the schools in that area in the meantime.
Okay. Can you please describe your management style and why you think that would work well in our district?
I tend to be a dictator. No. Actually, I think if you asked any of the 12 principals that I work with, I have a very collaborative style, but at the same token, there are difficult decisions that you have to make when you're a district leader, whether in my position or in a superintendent position. And the buck stops there. When I own my decisions, and I take, I do what's best for children. And what my leadership style really is, while I'm collaborative, I really feel that I need to be a coach and a support system. One of the roles that I really embrace the most in my current role, I've been able to mentor and develop a number of the principals. Because I have a lot of experience, I typically have evaluated and mentored all of the new principals when they've come into the district. And I do view my role as a coach. Oftentimes I'm going in to help them. I start the year by asking, how can I help you grow this year? And we develop their goals in that manner. But then I typically, once I get to know the new principals or even the veteran principals that I work with, typically I've able to identify something that I might recommend that they work on. For example, I had a new principal who was struggling to really understand how to support his inclusive population for his integrated programs with special needs students in the young grades. So I kind of assigned him some, in a coaching manner, I assigned him some things that I would recommend him to develop his capacity in that area. And it did. That coaching model typically has worked immensely to help grow the capacity of our administrators. And I always feel very proud of that work. I have had administrators that may have been needs improvement in an area or two over the time, but giving that support, and I like to call myself a cheerleader for the principals as well. I'm not there to micromanage their decisions. I'm there really to support their decisions and help them learn from it. I always think that there might be ways, I always say to principals when something challenging is going on in the building, if they could try to keep me in the loop if it's going to come to my level, whether it's civil rights or, disabilities or anything that I might be supporting them with, discipline or a variety of things. I always ask, please give me a heads up, so that I can support you through the process, but I'm not going to make the decision for you. I want to help you grow in that area. And there are times when decisions are made at the building level that I may not necessarily have done it that way myself, but I don't believe there's one right way to make those types of decisions. And for me, that's always a learning experience, because sometimes what I might have done and would have worked out well, but something that maybe wasn't my decision still worked out okay, and we all learn and grow from one another. So I feel that as a superintendent, despite the fact that I'm the leader of the district, supporting the growth of all the administrators and leadership team in the district, I also grow and learn from the work that I do with my staff as well.
Thank you. Have you ever had to assist a school committee in the superintendent search process as a facilitator, advisor, or administrator?
I have not supported them with the superintendent search process, but I have supported the search process for most of our principals, assistant superintendents, and really been the one that made the recommendations for the finalists to the superintendent, and then later the school committee for that process. So I'm very familiar with the process, and I'm certainly able to, I do feel confident that I could facilitate. I've worked with a number of the consultant firms at Mask and different firms throughout the years, so I do feel that I could offer a lot in that area and help guide you to make decisions that would be the best for your district as well.
What is your experience in negotiating union contracts and the purchase of land?
Well, I would say that my experience with negotiations is immense at this point. For some, well, I shouldn't say for some reason, because my role was administration and personnel. Prior to my role here in Weymouth, I had been the curriculum leader in the district and had some negotiation background. But in the personnel role, I've had my hands in finance. I've been the joint labor management person that facilitates problem solving with all of our union heads and vice presidents. I've also been the person that has been on, we have 8 contracts in the district, and I have been the administrator that has been I've been the only administrator that's facilitated that work with the school committee every year. Some of our administrators have joined me in some of that, but I have been the constant throughout that process. I like to be in more of a mode of an IBB, interest-based bargaining. Our school committee is not really comfortable with that, but I feel my style lends it to that. So when we have the last few years, when I have sat with the school committee, usually 2 or 3 members depending on the group, and I've asked if I could lead that work and not use lawyers. A lot of times we bring lawyers or representatives to those meetings, and I think it can get tense when you do that. I prefer not to have to leave the bargaining table and go into caucusing all the time. So I've really worked hard with the school committee to say, can we try to do a lot of the talking at the table and make decisions? Because a lot of the questions that you have when you go into caucus, and then you have to wait 15, 20 minutes to go back and find out that question, and then you have to pull aside again. It doesn't lend itself well to problem solving together. So even though it is not an IBB model that I've used, I feel it's similar to that, and we've been able to set a lot of contracts by having those open communication at the table, and the school committee has been very proactive in allowing me to be sort of the mediator, facilitator of that entire process.
Okay. I will just ask if you've had any experience with purchasing land.
Oh,
in
sorry,
your,
yeah.
yeah, no, I just wanted to make sure you had that opportunity.
I have not been in the process of purchasing land, except my own personal properties. However, I have been involved in indirectly and some direct parts to the building process through MSBA. In actually my previous district, I had come in after they were starting an MSBA project on the high school, and I worked with the superintendent on some of the final details of that. And actually my current district just got approved for a middle school, which is long overdue, which was very exciting because we've been fighting for that vote for some time, and it's a desperate need in the district. So those are always exciting. To have those opportunities to build something together. So I'm not, the purchasing of the land would be a unique thing for me, but I'm sure it's something that I have a strong level budgetary sense, and I'm very finance-minded in that respect, so I don't think that would be a challenge.
Okay. How familiar are you with the needs and issues of a regional school district, and what is your experience in managing those complexities?
Well, one of the things that I thought was nice, I've been in districts, I work with a lot of superintendent groups and assistant superintendent groups, and I've talked to some of the leaders that, one of the leaders that I'd worked with had 4 different school committees, and the challenges of that, she was going to 4 different school committee meetings throughout the month, and I just remember hearing how she seemed to be overwhelmed. It's a lot of work trying to manage all the different entities. I like the fact that you have one school committee combined, because I think that helps. You're working together on the same, not that there would be an us and them, but still when you have 4 different towns coming into one, and there are different needs and different socioeconomics or demographics from town to town, it can be that much more challenging. So the fact that you're all united as a team here, I think makes that work a lot easier to do. But certainly there's always the challenge of when you vote the budget, and then you have to make sure if you're looking for additional funds, and one town votes yes, one town votes no, then you're back to the drawing board. So I know what a challenge that can be, and I've seen some of my neighboring towns really struggle with that when similarly that happened in a town that my stepson grew up, and they then had to go back to the drawing board, and a lot of time and momentum is lost. So that definitely can be a challenge, but the fact that you're united as a team here, I think, from my perspective, would make that probably a lot less work, because you're already in the same mindset before you even go to looking for additional funds to the town if that's necessary.
How would you describe the differences between a permanent superintendency and an interim superintendency?
Well, as a permanent superintendent, I've been involved in leading work with long-range strategic planning, developing a vision and mission, and I like to do that work as far as kind of thinking where do we want to be 5 years out, and then backwards planning and trying to think strategically what we would do over that 5-year plan and developing that model in place, lining the vision and the mission, with working with the school committee, working with community stakeholders. And I also think I haven't been able to do this in my current role, but I think it's very important when you have a strategic plan in place, then to line up your budgetary process. So you'll have a 5-year budget. If you're looking to build things back into a budget or move into certain areas, then the budget lines up very nicely with that from year to year, and there's no surprises when the school committee, that you already would know as a school committee what we might be asking for. Same thing with school improvement plans. If we have everything kind of lined up on a 3 to 5 year plan so that there's no surprises. Professional development, same way. I really feel it's important when you decide if you're looking to grow the schools department in a certain manner, then you know what the needs of the staff for training is as well, and not making sure that there are not too many initiatives on the table. I think the buy-in from staff is incredible when they know exactly where we're expecting to go, and we line up our 5-year training model for them as well and not take on too much. It just makes, the strategic planning process is something I think is very critical to help districts move forward in a positive direction, but that would be for a permanent superintendent. From my perspective, wanting to certainly support you in whatever you feel the needs of the year I would be here would be, but making sure that I don't take on too much, because that would not be the job. That would be something that it really needs to be the new superintendent coming in and putting their lens and their vision and mission in place, and making sure I don't overstep in any way. But absolutely making sure that I'm managing the district effectively and still providing that support and coaching model. And I still think there's an opportunity to be able to develop some self-efficacy skills for the principals and help support them in any of their areas of growth that I would be able to do so just from my vast background and experience.
So that concludes our scripted questions, if you will. So if you'd like to take some time to tell us, either give us a closing statement or provide some additional information, like I said, if you feel would be helpful to the school committee to know about you. Sure.
As you can see, my current role is more in administration and personnel. But despite that, I am an educational leader. I do think superintendents have to be very civic-minded and politically minded, and making sure that they connect with all the community stakeholders so that we're all working together, not divided. And I have a lot of skills in that area. But I say, first and foremost, I'm here because I care about children. I'm very passionate about making sure I do make a difference in my daily work. And even in my current role, despite the fact that I've been doing more of the HR personnel, I talked about negotiations and joint labor management. Those are a lot of skills I've been able to really hone and develop. And many of the assistant superintendents that I work with don't have any of that experience. A lot of times it's typically the superintendent in the district that handles the bulk of what my job is currently. But in addition to that, I have strong curriculum background, I have professional development. I've been the cheerleader for our maintenance department when they've struggled with trying to fund for different projects. Another hat I've been able to wear, which I really do enjoy, is safety and security for the district. When I first started, you know, there were, as you all know, there have been a lot of concerns about school safety throughout the nation. We've had a lot of serious incidents, and the trauma that students and even our staff experience when they're exposed to, even if it's not in your district, when you hear it on the news, I think that just puts people in a very traumatic state in general. So a lot of the work that I was asked to do was to kind of establish a safety and security committee. I have some of our chief of police and our fire chief have attended some of those meetings, our school resource officers, captains on the police department, deputy chief of the fire, number of our principals. I sit on there with my transportation manager, my weight care director, maintenance director. So we as a team have really identified how we could make all of our schools safer. And I have never had a budget for safety, but I'm amazed with the amount of work that I've been able to support our maintenance and custodial department. They've been able to take 9 out of our 12 buildings and put a safety entrance that the parents aren't getting buzzed into the building until they've already been checked through the ID. A lot of times we're buzzing people in prior to even checking IDs, and it might be too late. So that was one thing that I was very passionate about. Every summer, I travel around the district with our director of maintenance, and we identify what safety projects we can work on that year. And I've been fortunate that he's been able to support me by anytime we've had savings from electricity or putting new lights in and things like that in the building, heat, so forth. We've actually taken those little bit of funds and really worked to make sure that the physical safety of our buildings have been enhanced immensely. And I'm very excited about that work. The work is still not done. Every year I try to get a little bit more. I've written a number of grants for safety. In fact, I just was working on one recently. And an additional area that I really do love about my job, which again is not part of the job description, is family engagement. I think it was 5 years ago, the previous superintendent had said to me, we really need to do more to have equitable experiences for children throughout the district. And I dove in I have one principal and a community liaison that has worked with me with fidelity for the last 5 years. The 3 of us were meeting today. What I noticed, there may not be as much inequity here, but in my district we have 8 primary buildings. And what I was seeing, one of our schools was our very significant Title I school. Some of the other schools have very rigorous parent-teacher councils and have a lot more funding for enrichment opportunities. And that didn't seem fair, that from building to building there was inequity for children. I'm so intent on making sure that we have equitable educational opportunities for all children, regardless of what part of town they live on. So we developed a year-round opportunity of events that all children are welcome to come. They're all free of charge. Sometimes we have provided busing for parents. I happen to have a number of ELL families, and having the different languages in place. So just, for me, it really doesn't matter. The differences here are going to be different than, certainly I looked at your demographics. You don't have the same demographics and socioeconomic concerns that I might have. That being said, that's social justice and making sure that all children have fair and equitable opportunities is something that we need to do in all districts. From building to building, there needs to be some non-negotiables that we make sure that these are the bare minimum that every child gets. But equity doesn't mean the same for every child. That's something I've learned over time. What one building needs, one child needs, one school needs is going to vary. And sometimes what's fair for one child, one building, one principal is going to be different. But there definitely need to be some of those non-negotiable things so that all your children coming pre-K through 12 at the end of their career here have had similar experiences that they can have college and career success when they leave the district. And I think one of the things that I like to think about, and I don't know that districts have over time really had the opportunity to do so, but I really think, we look at MCAS scores, we look at how well our districts are doing, we look at what level they're on, accountability, and I looked at you're certainly meeting targets, partially meeting in some areas, but definitely meeting. I was happy to see that your special needs population was meeting targets, because a lot of times when I look at school-wide data, that's where you see some of the high-risk students really struggling. So that was nice to see. But I think the true test of a district overall is what happens 5 years after students out, what's happening 10 years out. Do we do longitudinal data to make sure it's not just about what the kids are doing while they're with us, but where are they ending up globally, where are they ending up career-wise? Are they graduating from 4-year colleges? Are they graduating from 2-year? Are they going into hands-on career opportunities? and military. So I think there are so many measures that we don't necessarily pay attention to. And certainly, looking at your data, you have really strong data, and your school system looks very rigorous and have high expectations for students. But I still think there are other lenses we could be looking through, and I feel like I could share some of that work with you as you plan for a new superintendent and beyond in the future.
Anything else you'd like to add?
Oh, let me think. I'm sure I forgot something. It's such a short time that I've only given half an hour. I have a little time. As I mentioned, I am looking for a permanent home. I still have a long time left in education. I've worn a lot of hats. I've developed a lot of skills. Certainly the depth and breadth of experience that I've had can be unique to many of the, I've met some standing superintendents that have not been able to do some of the work that I've been able to do. So I feel fortunate that I've developed so many different skills and I've become so well-rounded. And I'm just craving that next opportunity to make sure that I can even grow. A lot of it is about professional growth for me. I'm a lifelong learner. I may have mentioned in my letter that I did my doctoral work and finished that in 2017. And if I had to share with you what I feel my top strength is, it's perseverance. I have persevered through a number of challenges myself, having a child young and trying to navigate, because I was adamant that my family had low expectations for me as a student and a learner, and I wanted to make sure that I put the bar very high for myself. When I was doing my doctoral work, I realized that the reason I am here today is because I am resilient and very motivated. I wasn't motivated from my family perspective, but I was motivated by some of the teachers that were particularly in the Boston Public Schools. I can remember a few different teachers that made such a difference for me. I knew at a very young age that I was going to college. I didn't know what I wanted to do. I wish I had had teachers more like myself that tried to help kids understand from day one, pre-K all the way up. If these are the interests that you have, these are the paths that it may take you on. There are multiple pathways for children. And I think that college career success needs to be instilled and discussed with kids as they pass through their career. As I mentioned, no idea what I wanted to be when I grew up. But the reason I wanted to go to college is I had a few incredible teachers in the Boston Public Schools that inspired me and helped me to believe in myself. And I think that's half the battle as educators, superintendents, helping to motivate people and helping them to find their dreams and believe in themselves. And I do think that's work that as a superintendent I would be continuing to do. I'm glad that, I mentioned to you having a child young helped me realize that I had a lot to give back and how much I loved children and wanted to make a difference. So when I did the dissertation work, I interviewed 8 high school students in my school, and I wanted to find children that had persevered and had developed resiliency and what the connections were for them. What I found out in general was they had to have someone that was connected to them. More often than not, it was the school, typically an adjustment counselor, a favorite teacher, a guidance counselor, principal, who, in some cases it was someone in the community, but there was always that common connection, and that was what inspired me to succeed as well. So in a small district, to be able to make those meaningful connections for students with their teachers, with their support staff, I feel that one of the things I can offer is that visibility piece and really getting to know the kids, even though it is 1 year. With 6,000 students, it's quite challenging to get to know them all, but there are certain kids that resonate with you. Today, when I was visiting the building, one of the buildings that I was at today, there was a little boy that had been nonverbal when he came to us as a preschooler. He had suffered a lot of challenges in his early life, and now that little boy is in 3rd grade. I used to see that child kicking down bookcases because he couldn't get his words out and he was struggling so much. And being able to support the special needs department, making sure that our programs are strong and well-developed, to see how far he's come with the right supports in place, that's critical. That my special needs background is not something that I talked about with you, but I really, because I've had so many different lenses that I've been able to kind of build into my repertoire of skills, all of those different roles and leadership opportunities I've had, all of that lends itself to the decisions I make. Because I always remember when I'm making a difficult decision or a meaningful decision, what would I do as a parent? What would I do as a building leader? What would I do as someone that, just from the student perspective, And I try to remember those unique experiences if I were the educator again. And I think all of those hats, we need to make sure we don't forget them. One of the things I've heard staff and sometimes say that they think that administrators have forgotten what it's like to be a teacher. I don't want to ever forget those roles that I've worn, those hats that I've worn, because that's who made me who I am today. That social justice piece that I talked about, when we start to forget, we get too removed from the classroom and forget what it's like to be a student, to be a teacher, to be a principal, all of those pieces, then I think you're not good at serving your community. So, I'm here because I would love this opportunity to give you a chance to get to know me and see how I could support you for the year. And, ultimately, if it lended itself to maybe being considered as a full-time permanent position as well, that would be wonderful. But I wouldn't be assuming that would happen at the start. I really know that what I'm here for the first year, and I think the fact that I have so many skills to offer, I can really keep your ships sailing smoothly here.
Thank you very much.
Thank you very much.
We appreciate you coming.
Okay, have a good night.
Okay. I had a copy or fail, so I'm going to go back and copy these again.
Oh, okay, all right.
I put in one-sided to two-sided, but it started out two-sided.
Oh.
Not here, we gotta kill the
Right.
camera.
Oh, Michelle.
I don't think he's here.
Oh.
So I think the mic's supposed to be.
On.
The mics are still on, yeah, he's outside, I think.
now. Such a David thing to do.
Thanks. Is he coming in? Is he coming in? Let's turn the mics off. I guess I'll go use the ladies' room. Go. Use the ladies' room. See, when I'm in court, there's a digital clock that counts, so you know you're on record. You need to keep your mouth shut.
Gotta learn that skill. We're live.
The cameras are still rolling,
This camera's still rolling. Oh, okay.
and the mics are still live. Yeah, we're looking for the, David, don't touch anything.
Are you AV certified?
It's not like the snake.
Do we have an updated agenda?
For today.
So do we know he was going? Oh, yeah, I'm not touching that.
Can I just borrow it for you?
You can have it if you want.
Never mind, I've got it.
So in speaking with Mike earlier on the 8th, we actually just took everything off the agenda and pushed it to the 22nd and opened the 8th because we had left the 22nd open apparently to sort of do all the work that we decided we were now going to push to the 8th. So that's how we're going to handle that, which is good because now it won't be a midnight.
So what was that? So the 8th?
So we're just doing interviews?
The
then?
8th will just be the interviews and then deliberation. Excuse me. Would be
So we
the-
don't do, so we won't do deliberation on the 10th then? Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, we can all do it, we could do it all right there.
I think Michelle will not want to do it on the same night.
Yeah, I think we should kind of sleep on, some of those, decision like that personally.
So originally, we were doing the 8th,
Doing the 8th.
coming back on the 10th,
Yeah.
and deciding, so now it's on the 8th?
Well, I mean, we could still do that, but we have the 8th wide open now, so we can do whatever we want. Because like I said, we had the 22nd, nothing on the 22nd, so we just moved everything that was there, which is like Kevin Sano's coming in, the school, student government, and we just moved all that to the 22nd in order to just let this be its own. But I mean, even if we kept it at that, right, and we, you know, started the meeting at 7, we kept it to, 45 minutes or an hour of open dialogue, that's still,
It's
gonna
still
bring us
a
to
couple
9 o'clock.
hours, yeah.
So, so we could still then make the decision on the Friday. I knew, see, that was the one thing I forgot to write down.
Yeah, I think we can debate on the 8th, and then still decide on the 10th.
Yeah,
can certainly
I
do
think
that.
That's a good idea.
Yeah. But now, instead of trying to push 2 meetings together,
Yeah,
it's just.
no, that's smart.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, because that would have been a really long night, and nobody would have been
Freezing.
coherent.
Yep, don't tell Carrie.
What? What?
The 8th, we just, everything
We
that we
decided to
spoke about on
double up
Monday.
on the 8th.
Wait, what?
Just kidding.
Didn't we do that anyways?
So we, yeah, but no,
No, we
what's actually
changed.
gonna happen is everything that we spoke about on Monday that was on the 8th, we're moving to the 22nd, because the 22nd was actually wide open.
I'm confused.
So the 8th, we're only doing
Interviews.
interviews.
Okay, and not deciding.
So, but we're also not doing.
Wait a minute, hold on, we're not doing a meeting on
We're
that?
not, we're doing a meeting, but we're not doing the meeting that you and I,
Discussed?
yeah.
Okay.
So that's all getting moved.
So does that mean we're doing like minutes and warrants and,
Yeah, I think that's, well,
We still have
warrants
to do
has to
warrants,
happen, so.
right?
But,
no, I mean approve. Is
We-
what I'm trying to say. Are we approving?
I think we have, don't.
No, we don't have
No, we don't
to,
have
yeah.
to, no.
Well, it depends on if she has them, because we don't have minutes as of right now to approve, but she said she'd have them
Oh,
possibly
okay.
today, right?
I thought that earlier.
What?
I thought that earlier. By tomorrow, probably. I'm about 3/4 of the way through.
Yeah, I mean, that's not, it's not a time-consuming thing anyway, so if it gets, if it goes on the agenda,
So
that's fine.
condensed meeting,
So it's still gonna be a couple hours,
the meeting,
yes,
and then,
but Kevin Sano's not coming in, we pushed her back to the 22nd.
okay.
School committee.
That's the field
school-
trips?
Yep, school,
Government?
council is not gonna, be coming in,
Okay,
and then there was something else. that-
okay.
But, so that's all gonna be moved to the 22nd.
And then interviews,
So, and then interviews, but again, we said that we wanted, 45 minutes, excuse me, each, so figure take, a few minutes on either end, and that's 2 hours,
yep.
which is a full, full meeting, so we'll be fine.
And then decision, we gonna,
On the 10th.
on the 10th still?
Yes.
Yep, okay.
Which, well, yeah, so we'll do that on the 10th, so it's actually decision, and then beginning contract negotiation, right? So, because that's something we haven't discussed at all,
Right.
is, what the compensation package would look like. So, that would have to come up at some point
Yeah.
During the interviews with the 2 finalists, or after the fact?
after.
It would be after, once we make our decision, then
Ones that have to
probably
be
the
on page
22nd. When we discuss it.
No, it has to be, it would
No, I know,
be
we have to
before
go
the
on.
22nd.
It's on
I think
the
I'll have to happen on the 10th.
It's like a
Thank you. The other copy only has odd pages in it, so this one has even odd.
Thanks.
I was gonna print this
Oh,
at home,
really,
but I
is a
saw
book?
there were so many pages, I'm gonna say which one. Thank you.
Oh, in the recycle? Want me to take those? and
Like,
put
that
them
was
in
a
the
lot.
recycle?
But then it was really confusing when I only copied the odd pages. And you're like,
Does it come in
This
graphic
sentence
novel
me-
form?
let's see. Okay.
David, you want to tell Michelle since she was gone?
No, that's what she gets with me, so, listen. The 8th, we just pushed everything off the normal agenda and moved that to the 22nd. So the 22nd was wide open, so the 8th is only gonna be the finalist interviews now.
Okay.
Are we deliberating
And then
that
we'll
day
meet
too?
on the 10th still?
Yeah. And what I was saying as you were
Okay.
just walking in is that on the 10th, we'll probably want to begin, at least primarily, thinking about compensation. And, right, because we haven't discussed that at all, what it's going to, what we're actually going to be offering.
So we would meet in open session, make a decision, then meet in executive session for strategy regarding non-union contract.
Right.
We need to make sure that's on the agenda, that it's as such as
Yep. That's easy.
executive session.
That's the easiest part.
Writing the entry is easy.
How about I do that and you guys do the rest?
Well, I think the negotiating working group
just-
gets to
just
do
to
the
be clear.
Well, that is true.
I think you raised
Well, I
your
mean,
hand for that one.
I mean, it could go,
And-
right, which is, I'm
And so on the
immediately
8th,
regretting.
are we going to meet at 6:30 or 7?
Pretty
The 8th, 7.
parameters we
There's
have.
no reason to meet at 6:30 now, plus it makes it
Yeah,
easier.
you can't offer.
And I wasn't sure.
Okay.
I
Can't do
would-
that.
Right, right.
So the school
generally pegged
kids have been
to-
notified that
Yep.
they're not.
And Kevin signed.
Experience,
Okay.
what comparable districts
So the finalists,
are.
are we gonna have,
There's
we're gonna
data
decide the
available.
2 finalists?
Yeah.
Well, the
Yes.
other thing
There's
is,
a range.
And then so we'll do the
That's-
finalist
The other
interviews
thing
on the
is-
8th?
that's in the
Then
budget.
decide
Why
on
do
the
I,
10th.
Right.
what,
Well,
why
it's-
deliberate
So-
and select on the 10th?
There's your,
That's your ceiling, yeah, that's your ceiling, so.
No, that's at
I can give you
The
some,
10th is still at 6.
some
10th is still.
guidance on
think that's what we picked,
negotiations.
6.
And
Your
then when are we
contract
gonna, the
could
contract
look very
stuff is gonna be
different
on
depending
the,
on whether you
on the
On the
10th,
10th.
hire
after
someone who's
deliberate and
retired
select.
versus someone who's not.
right, so
Right.
that's why it's like, we can't even begin sort of,
Yep.
that discussion before, you know.
Do you have guidelines set up already for that?
We don't, well,
I would not like that.
we don't have guidelines, but we can tell you what's typical,
Making a decision
what to
the same
expect,
way.
what you should,
decision on the 8th.
No, I
I
don't
guess
think that's a good
guidelines,
idea.
yeah, what,
Time to
you shouldn't
sleep on
have
it.
to pay, what you might, what you would expect to pay.
And wildly, we were all
Like
available.
Jean
on
was
the
just
10th.
saying possible.
Wildly, we were all available on the 10th.
If you have comps, I think.
Depends. I mean, we can get you comps, but
Not
again,
really,
it's gonna
but,
depend.
yeah.
Well, maybe most of us.
What category they're in?
At 6, I might be late
Yeah.
Well,
because
So I know we have super.
it's picking up my son from baseball.
it's the only day of the week I don't have baseball.
Well, I have, wait till he's in high school, I
They are
have 6
sometimes
days a
limited
week.
in what
No,
they can-
they can drive at that point.
Not when they're freshmen.
Not fresh,
It's
no,
less-
and sophomore.
it's less
Freshman, sophomore,
comps
they
than the
can't
going
unless they're,
rate.
Right.
Then,
you know, older.
And then they have that JOL thing where
Yeah.
they can't go
I
with
have
a friend either.
Number.
So, yeah, so freshman, sophomore, they can't.
It is.
They have
once
bikes.
drive.
Yeah,
Yeah,
get
yeah.
them
They have
to-
bicycles.
No way.
If you're
Are they
close
allowed
on
to
this
ride
side,
mopeds?
but
Yeah.
we're on the other side.
Hot mic
Won't let my
moment,
son
dude.
really
Hot mic
do a lot
moment.
because
when Mike,
the
when
four
Mike-
corners,
and
5
I will
corners,
say
it's
this
really
because I have no
dangerous.
Oh, it is,
problem
yeah,
saying
no, I
Mike.
know.
And I almost got hit one time when my daughter was younger, and I tried to do something about the sidewalk, and they're like poo-pooing me. I'm like, okay, it's
Yeah.
fine.
I
So-
know.
But vocal minority.
He does it
Oh,
now
good,
that
we
he's
can get that
older.
spending
If it's
back in order
daylight, if it gets
on
dark,
that,
I'm
and
like,
I'm
no
like-
way.
No, it's crazy.
Yeah. Because the people don't, in a small town like this, they
Larch
don't
Row,
realize that,
Essex
you know,
Street,
he's the CEO, it's
Um,
four
and
Four
corners.
corners.
it's-
Walnut, is it Walnut there, or does it turn
Walnut,
into
yeah,
Walnut?
Walnut.
Walnut,
Well,
Walnut
Grapevine.
turns into
Do you know
Dodge.
if, you know
See,
where,
but it's also,
like Crosby's is,
I mean,
Yeah,
Grapevine.
still-
You go down that street?
Corners.
to the stop sign? like going away from town.
Yeah, isn't that Miles River Road?
No, so that's, so if you're at Crosby's
kinda
and
consider
15
Grapevine as
Walnut,
part of that
that's
intersection.
Walnut Street.
Yeah.
So if you take Walnut Street
It's a
to the
crazy
end, well, to the
intersection.
stop sign, that's Four
Police
Corners.
are really bad.
And it's a horrendous,
Well, you mean it's a four-way stop?
Right.
By Grapevine Road?
Those roads.
yes,
Oh.
yes, yep.
I'd try Wyoming Square and Lynn.
Well, but for like cyclists and stuff. Oh, I go through Wyoming Square and Lynn every day now.
Now it's okay because
Think
they have
think about
lights, but when
Mascot.
I
Yeah,
was a
but
kid, there
it's-
was no lights.
Communities that they have an economy.
I don't know that it matters.
Hamilton
because
Wyndham don't
lights
have an
there.
economy. There is no economy.
Where?
in-
Wyoming
Driver
Square and
instructor
Lynn.
would take you through Wyoming Square.
Boxford, yeah.
Yeah,
Boxford.
well,
After that.
Middleton,
Middleton, though,
Topsfield,
Middleton.
yeah.
Middleton,
I mean,
right.
there's-
Yeah.
Speaking of that, there's now a new driver's ed teacher
Yeah.
triad.
Hamilton and Wyndham have
I guess
nothing going on.
Not really nice.
Yeah.
My son can't stand
It's
him.
not enough.
I guess he,
I mean, it's
he's
funny
had
'cause
no
you
problems. He's
drive
near
up
the
and
end of
You
it.
know, like these
like,
mics
I
are
think
hot.
Topsfield is
Yes.
very
Yeah.
rural, but
Yeah.
drive up to machine shops and
I
all that.
forgot.
It's sort of,
Mics
they've
are
done
hot.
a wonderful job of sort of
I just,
blending it into.
I had a boss one time say something he really shouldn't have in a hot mic. Very careful about that.
I mean, that's, I think,
Yeah, that's a good
because
point,
that
yeah.
was, that route one was there as a,
Good news
you know,
was,
thoroughfare.
it was only me and one
between
other person who
Maine
knew
and
what
New
was on.
Hampshire, and
But at
Yeah.
least it's not
so
alive.
that's,
It
Right.
totally makes sense for those industries that decided there because
right.
easy access to the road.
Right,
So can people ask
You know,
for
I
these
think-
interviews?
sure. I'm sure you
So
have neighbors
they're gonna be
complaining.
televised,
You know,
I
like
think,
here.
starting
we-
tomorrow.
Yeah,
you kept
no,
on-
'cause
you
they
kept-
were
you
there,
kept-
those establishments
my-
were there
my-
forever.
My 6-year-old
Please
can
edit
put it in lemonade stand. Neighbor complaining, right?
I think they are.
Editing it?
So,
No, I
Plus
think
my
they're
6-year-old's 8.
Okay,
after
edit them.
calling.
That probably helped.
I say Bath and Rocco are 6 and 8 all the time. I haven't been 6 and 8 for 2 years. So-
We call the girls the cat's name.
What's that?
We call the girls the cat's name. Our cat's name is Eleanor. We call Helen, hey, Eleanor. I mean, Helen. Yeah,
I've been
My
known,
wife
I've been,
does- my
I've
wife
been known
does
to
that
call
more.
my youngest the dog's name, so don't
Yeah,
worry about
my wife
that.
does it more than I
I
do.
call everyone Rocco. Everyone Rocco.
Shadow, what do you want for lunch?
We call the cat. We call the cat.
You must be
the
pretty
girl's
close to
name.
your cat.
I'm not a pet person, so I didn't really want the cat. To tell you the
It's
truth.
okay, the cat doesn't want you either.
Yeah, it doesn't really like me.
Cats don't like anyone,
It's true.
until they do these things.
She's on Friends of Ukraine.
So after we interview Jeff, are we then going to assign sections that each of us will take?
Yeah, I think that was what we decided yesterday.
Do we
Can
want
we
to,
do that now?
do we want to do that now? Pick up.
Oh, good.
So, now that we have page 2, it has the categories that are listed inside here. So if we wanted to do more probing questions or assign certain topics to certain people.
This always sounds great on camera.
Yeah, I know. Can we just switch the mics out, though? That would, because I noticed that, too, and I tried to pull this off, and it didn't come off.
Sometimes they pop right off, and sometimes they don't.
Yeah.
There you go.
Do you want the 2 links?
Well, thank you.
He's outside.
Leave them both. It's like Jerry Garcia.
So it'd be, it's like weird stereo or something.
It makes, it's very sensitive.
You put it right onto your keyboard.
Right.
They didn't put it in so good, the snow bubbles. I guess in 2 years we could do teachers.
What do you have for?
Probably.
Yes, I think we're looking to assign, is that what we're doing? Looking to assign or grab topics that we would be interested in asking a question about? Is that?
Right.
So like I take leadership management.
Right, just 'cause
And
it's-
pick a question.
Something.
Okay.
I think that's what we're doing. Is that
Yeah.
what we're doing, David?
So,
Yeah.
I'm a leader in the general sense. No, but I think that if that's the way we want to take it, to sort of grab a topic, and if we can do that, I already know what topic I want to get.
What's that?
Technology.
Technology? Okay.
Got some interesting questions about that.
Well, maybe.
Well, so, I mean, I'm going through and I'm wondering, all right, there's about 15 topics here, I think is where I just lost count.
Well, we're also finding that 6-question fills about 20 minutes, 25 minutes.
7 questions.
7 questions.
Yeah, but we're going to make this a little
So-
bit more dialogue.
The next one will be more.
Like a
back and
question with a
forth.
follow-up question.
So they're
I think
20.
some of these questions, I think, are a little bit more open-ended, too, than the questions that you have.
Okay.
Okay.
So it allows that, a more expansive answer.
I mean, I really like.
So there are 20. So there are 20 topics,
Yeah.
right? Starting from this district, ending with state level. So are there? Maybe the initial thought is, do we want to? Are there specific key topics that we definitely want to try to elicit from the candidate,
Yep.
right? Maybe narrow down the 20
Right.
to a smaller set.
Yeah, I don't think, you don't necessarily want to have one question from every category. I think
Right.
you want to pick the categories you want to focus in
Absolutely,
on.
yeah. And then from there, we can sort of figure out who wants to do what part, right?
Yes.
So,
Can I say communications
no,
is key?
yeah, I think
Ooh.
we need to do that.
Okay.
That's the way it goes. No, we're not picking the questions, we're picking the categories.
Category, and then you choose the question.
You choose the question.
Yeah.
Individually.
Yeah, I think we can read that list pretty easily.
really like
Get through it now.
Do like special ed, is my kind of my thing, if there's a way to pick.
Is it your thing?
It is my thing. I'm very sensitive to that.
I mean, I think,
We can
These
table
two
this
are
till after at this point.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, and there's some things on here that aren't. Yeah, and there's some topics that aren't, sorry, the other way around, there's some topics that aren't on here, right?
which would depend on the candidate.
Right.
Oh, I see. Okay. Maybe I recognize it from like Facebook. Where is it? The beaker? Oh, okay.
I'm good?
Give it 10 seconds.
Yeah.
You get that seat now.
You get the hot seat.
Part of the gallery.
We know you like to be close. Ready?
I'm good to go. Pass the mic.
Good evening. So you know who I am. Carrie Gertz, Vice Chair of the Hamilton-Wenham Regional School Committee, and I'm going to facilitate the interview this evening. We have allotted 45 minutes for you to answer questions. We have 7 questions that we've prepared for you. And at the end, we'll give you an opportunity to either, if there's time remaining, to give us a closing statement or to provide any other information you think would be helpful to us. Okay. Could you first tell us a little bit about yourself?
Sure. So you all, with the exception of Michelle, all know me pretty well. So I'm Jeff Sands. I'm your Assistant Superintendent of Schools. I've been here for almost 6 years now. In that capacity, I oversee the day-to-day operations of the district, really focused on non-instructional areas, including finance, accounting, the whole business operation, payroll, treasury function, facilities and grounds, IT, procurement, HR, so on and so forth. So, it's pretty expansive, but it doesn't include the instructional component of the responsibilities.
Why did you apply for this position?
So, why did I apply for this position? This multifaceted answer to that. So, I take my job really seriously, as you all know, and I have a vested interest in this district and community. I don't live here, but I feel invested. When I got here, this place was a disaster, and Mike and I and the leadership team have done a lot of great things over the years to position this district to be in a better place, and I feel like I play a big part in that. And to be honest with you, I think I'm the right person for the job. I can offer the continuity, the stability, the institutional knowledge, and I have a work ethic I think that's pretty unmatched. So I can go on if you want, but yeah.
This next one sounds funny. Based on what you've learned about our district, what are your top 3 goals during your interim superintendency?
I think the first goal, so whenever there's a leadership change, well, let me back up. So I have a pretty diverse background for some that don't know me very well. So I spent the majority of my career in private industry. The majority of that time, PricewaterhouseCoopers, the world's biggest accounting firm. And I was given lots of opportunity to kind of have diverse positions and be afforded opportunities that, looking back, I'm surprised that I was given. And, one of the things I learned was in that time that people, it's all about the people. And I'm concerned about the team that's been assembled falling apart. And so that's one of the things I'm most concerned about. One of the things I focus the majority of my time on is making sure that the team that's been built stays in place and the continuity that's there today continues to be in place. So that's really the most important thing. The second would be to continue the really great work that Mike and the leadership team has put in place in a variety of areas. So if I think about curriculum and instruction, and I think about the work that Peggy's doing, working with the principals in the areas of professional development and those types of things, I think it's important to continue to leverage and continue with the great work that they're doing, and give these people the support and the tools they need to continue with their work. So I would say that those are the 2 areas that I would focus on. And then, without hesitation, to continue to focus on our facilities. I think we're undergoing a very important project this summer. I happen to be leading that project, the Winthrop Sprinkler project. We're spending close to $1 million on that project, and it's important that project progress and be completed in a very timely manner. Otherwise, the Winthrop school will not be given an occupancy permit and will not be able to open its doors on the first day. So those are 3 areas that I'd say kind of highlights or jump to me.
Thanks. Would you please describe your management style and why you think that will work well in our district?
So I would say my management style is demanding but fair. I think if you'd ask all the folks that report up through me in those various organizations, I would say that they enjoy working with me. But that I am demanding, and that if there's issues that I don't let things fester. I'm pretty straightforward with people, and I have high expectations of my team. That's how I would describe it.
Have you ever had to assist a school committee in the superintendent search process as a facilitator, advisor, or administrator?
Have I had to assist in the superintendent search? No. Assistant superintendent. and I've never been on a committee as like a parent volunteer or anything. I served on a building committee, but that's it.
No, he had moved it, so the feedback stopped.
Oh, I'm sorry.
No, he actually fixed it.
I knew that was bothersome, so I went to get Jonah to see if he could fix it, so yeah.
But you already fixed it for a
As
second.
long as, if you can tech it yourself, it's good.
He's pointing at this.
Yeah, I don't know. Good? Okay. What is your experience in negotiating union contracts and the purchase of land?
So I've negotiated, or been part of the team that's negotiated the last 7 or 8 contracts for you, as you know. So Mike and I took that responsibility together, and we worked together as a team of equals. So that's the way that we set it up. So I have extensive experience with labor union contracts, real estate and land, but extensive. Yeah, I won't go into my personal business, but that's something that I did for a job for a couple of years. I also, in my role at PricewaterhouseCoopers, one of my roles was with real estate. I have fairly extensive experience dealing with commercial real estate. Not as a broker, but in negotiations.
How familiar are you with the needs and issues of regional district, and what is your experience in managing those complexities?
So I'm very, very familiar, and I do that for this committee. So I would say I'm familiar with every aspect of regional school district, organizational structures, statutes, so on and so forth. Budgets, personnel issues, CBA issues. I think access and deficiency and all those things in this district. So I would say extensive experience and successful experience.
How would you describe the differences between a permanent superintendent and an interim superintendent position?
I think they're very different. So I think that an interim superintendent's position is, in my opinion, is to keep the ball moving forward, to make sure there's staff have what they need, as I talked about earlier, continuity, make sure that the team's in a good place so that it doesn't fracture, so that when the time comes for a permanent superintendent, who's going to set vision and long-term strategy and those types of things. I don't think an interim superintendent's role is necessarily those things. I think the focus is very short-term, and it's on continuing to do the great things that this district is doing and not losing ground. A permanent is, here for, hopefully, 5 to 10 years, a really long period of time, where, that particular person can integrate and mesh their vision with the school committee's vision and the community's vision for not only curriculum and instruction, but facilities and all those kinds of things. As an interim superintendent, I don't envision myself doing those things necessarily in a 12-month period of time. It's holding the fort down, right, and making sure that the place doesn't fall apart. It's also important for an interim to offer a permanent superintendent, and in my current capacity, I think I'm the only candidate that could do that.
Those are all the questions that we have for you. So if you would like to give a statement or provide any additional information that maybe we don't know about you that you'd like to share.
So I guess just a closing statement. I mean, we all know each other pretty well. As I said in my cover letter, I think I offer a unique set of skills to the community, to the district. I offer continuity, I offer stability, I offer institutional knowledge, I offer 6 years of relationships with hundreds of people here. There is zero learning curve with me, none. That doesn't mean there's not a lot of hard work. There is a lot of hard work. If I were to move into a different position, we'd have to figure out how we're going to fill that gap, because one person can't have 2 jobs, right? I have the ability to carry a pretty significant bandwidth, but not 2 jobs. So it's figuring out how to fill some of those gaps, and when the time's right, I'll share my thoughts regarding that. But it's leveraging people that are already in place and asking them to step up too, and giving them opportunity to step up and do new different things. And I think that'll be intriguing for most of the people here, right? Because we all get stuck on our hamster wheel, we get a little bored, and to do something different for even 12 months or 15 months or however long it's going to be, there's some intrigue with that. And I think most of the folks I know here will welcome that additional challenge. So I think I offer the community and the school committee those attributes. I appreciate the unanimous vote of confidence to invite me here. I was appreciative of that, and that's pretty much it.
Thank you very much. Well, efficient. And you were our last candidate, so I didn't interrogate you. It was a little bumpy.
No, not at this point.
Yeah.
We're just gonna table this. Thanks for coming in, and actually twice today at this point. Right, so I know, I could, as soon as you walked in, I saw the suit and the tie. So. But thanks a lot, Jeff.
Okay.
Thank you, Jeff.
All right, no problem. Thank you.
Thank
Thank you.
Thanks.
Good night. Night.
So as far as
The microphones.
he goes, so when I went to the school earlier to watch the video of last night,
Oh, yeah.
I was speaking to Bill, and what Bill does and won't do. So last night will be played in its entirety with the mics off. He will not edit. Right? So if we were to turn the mics off, right, we're still in open session. So, being televised and, being in an open meeting are 2 different things. If we were to turn the mics off, it would still keep running, in the recording that would end up getting played would have us speaking just with no microphones on. So just letting everyone know that. I thought it was an interesting conversation I had earlier in that regard, because I had never really thought about it, as being 2 separate entities, but it is. But one thing he said he will not do is edit,
Right.
Excuse me. So just putting that out there for you guys to know, so.
So do we want,
We didn't do anything inappropriate. on
No, I'm not saying that we
no,
did,
not
but
worried.
no, I'm not saying that we did, but I just thought like, oh, well, he'll just cut it
It's all
from there to
good.
there.
No.
But he won't for the,
Yeah.
Right.
And people can fast forward through and
Right.
find, where the action starts.
Like I
yeah.
said, I thought it interesting so I thought I'd share that.
right. So do our discussions to select the 2 finalists need to be recorded, audio recorded, I guess is my question. You do,
You
you
do?
don't?
I do.
I think
Yeah.
it does, because it's, we've been doing everything in open session, so this.
Well, we're still in open session, whether or not the mics are live and the TV's live. That was the
You'll
other.
still see we're sitting here talking
so,
and just won't hear it, yeah.
we are in an open meeting.
What's
I
that?
just think I just think it helps people to know why certain decisions were made, that sometimes you can't capture in minutes.
Yeah.
It's just not the same.
All right, and so I'm fine with leaving it going. I'm wondering now, and this is a question for everyone, is this the type of thing that we can do it like we did for the initial process? Can we go through and pick 2 and then see if we can narrow the field? Or, this is up for negotiation, but I thought that worked pretty well.
Meaning do like a roll call type, who we are to?
Yeah.
And see where we land? I mean, that seems, does anybody have another idea on how to do it?
No, I think
Seems to work
That
for us.
works. I was just wondering, and again, just pros on each of them. I mean, all of them had strong attributes, different, but strong attributes.
Right.
Is it something we should, list 2 from each of the candidates, or, I don't know, that's just a thought I had of,
Well, so, I mean, well, obviously, we're ahead of schedule, so we don't need to worry about timing.
So why don't we do this? Why don't we go back to yesterday's candidates, talk about them individually, and then go to
And then
tonight's candidates?
Okay.
And then after we talk about what we liked about them, or didn't like about them, or how they could provide value to the school committee and district, we can then decide on the 2.
I think that's
It
right.
doesn't need to be 2, but
Yeah.
it could be 3. Wouldn't
Well,
suggest it, but.
I mean, so,
All right.
what, no?
Well, no, I'm just wondering if we need to go through all that, right? If we choose to, and then we can start weighing the options, if there's a third.
Yeah, I mean, I think we should probably just start off with like, what was our reactions to each of the candidates individually, right?
Okay.
It's hard.
Not necessarily in a comparative sense. Like, I like this guy because of whatever, but I liked him. I liked what he had to say. I liked what she had to say. I liked how what she said resonated with our needs or whatever it is.
Well, I think what stood out to me about, is it Bill McAuliffe?
Yeah, McAuliffe, yep.
Yeah, Bill.
I mean, he's got tons of years of regional experience, and I believe he served in the interim role on a number of occasions.
Regionals, yeah.
Yeah, at regionals, so,
4 or 5 years as interim
right.
regional.
Well, Herb didn't have the extensive,
Regional.
Well, he had worked at Blackstone something.
yes.
Blackstone
King
Reading.
Philip
No,
and
no, no.
Blackstone. King
Oh,
Philip
he
and,
was at King Philip too?
Yes.
and
So-
Blackstone.
Okay.
So he was at 2 different school districts that were regional.
Yeah.
Sorry, before we start comparing them, like let's, if we can just stick to him
one.
first.
Okay.
Because
Pros
we're
and
gonna veer
cons.
off, and we're
Yep.
never gonna really sort of really figure out like what do we really like about the person.
Yep.
So that I'm just suggesting.
No, I think that's
Yeah.
efficient, yeah.
So we're talking
Okay.
straight about Bill first?
Qualifications, not candidate to candidate.
Yes.
Right.
Yes.
So we're just going to talk about Bill first?
Candidate to qualifications, not candidate to candidate.
Yep.
Correct.
Yes.
Yep.
Yep.
Okay.
District.
Facilitate a lot of
So again, in going back and watching McAuliffe testimony today, I thought the thing that stuck out was the regional and, excuse me, the regional experience, because he spoke to it very fluently
He did.
also. And, and the fact, the interim, that he did a very good job of understanding what I perceive to be the interim role as well.
Right. And he's very effectively served in that role on a number of occasions.
I also like that his management style is he wants to develop a positive partnership and good communicator with not just, the school district, but within the towns as well. And I think that's really important for both Hamilton and Wenham because it can be a tricky situation with both of our towns.
That stood out to me too, because it kind of drew in the, when we were talking about going to town meeting every year, and there's the disparity between the folks in town with children and the folks in town without, and I think that communication piece is going to be very critical to us going forward.
One thing that he had that none of the other candidates that I recalled had was he talked about Winchester when they were doing the rebuild of their high school, they had considered 3 parcels. So he's been through a process where you've looked at a parcel, is a school going to be there? He's been through the MSBA process where those are kind of like all moving targets that we might need some expertise in this year. And he seemed to me to be the only one who had that specificness of skill set, so.
Yeah, good point.
I mean, and he is well-versed, as all the superintendents are, in negotiating contracts, and, I mean, but I think that's pretty much, at this level, they all are.
Yes.
My one concern, is he so far removed from the classroom? I mean, he was a principal back and headmaster, and back in Linfield in the 70s and 80s. But again, I think as a seasoned administrator, you are going to be far removed. I mean, I think I'm, whistling Dixie to, but he did seem to be affable and connected. And he did say how he's always in the schools, which is
Yes.
he has energy, it appears.
Right.
And
Yeah,
seem to-
definitely.
And wants to engage, so.
I also thought it was interesting that he and another candidate, both of them were interims, and then the interim got extended, and so obviously those school committees had some faith in them, so it must have worked out well for them to continue it longer than they had
And it was
anticipated.
more than, I think it was both of two.
Not that I'm saying, I'm hoping that will happen here, I'm just saying, clearly,
Right.
they worked well, so. That would be bad.
Excuse me. I thought Herb was quite charming, who could play the role of sort of a political leader in our sometimes fickle towns. That really stood up, his personality really stood
So
up.
we're
to me.
done with Bill.
So, I'm sorry, unless someone else had something to add.
No, I was,
It just seemed like it went, and I just didn't know.
yeah, I just wanted to be,
Okay,
okay.
all right.
Obviously, he has a, vast experience. Not sure what Bill's from, but, Herb's relatively local.
Mr. McAuliffe's resume says he lives in Lexington. Yeah.
I just wonder with Herb if his personality will be strong enough if a year is enough for him
So,
to have an impact.
right.
And he is a known entity in Peabody, coming from Salem. His children went to Peabody High, so he did have that home team advantage going into that position. So I was pleasantly surprised on paper versus person. So much more in person.
Yeah.
He has the experience, but I just wonder if we would be able to get enough, or would we appreciate him enough for the year, if that makes sense.
Right. Does he fit our specific needs? I think he's a fantastic candidate. Is it, right for our specific needs? So, and I think the other thing would be that he doesn't have as much regional experience. He does have some, but he doesn't have as much.
Right.
One thing he talked about is having built 12 schools.
Right.
So he had that far and above any other candidate, that he's built 12 schools.
Yes, but is it different in a city versus a regional?
Right.
I don't know.
No, because you're dealing with the MSBA either way.
It's pretty much the same? Okay.
Yeah, it's,
And even politically? Selectmen versus, I don't know, I'm just wondering. So,
I think it might be harder in a city, because you got to
City
convince
might be
the
harder
mayor.
because you have to get, I don't know,
I
but
don't know.
Dorothy, do you know the difference between city
It
and?
depends on
Well,
where you
yeah,
are in the
'cause you work
process,
on a
right?
city,
Once you've got all the MSBA approvals, I think it doesn't matter where you are.
So the same is when you're applying, is whether it's a city or
like a regional school district, correct?
It's more, I think the difference is the politics in the community harder. So far as the MSBA is concerned, it's a school building, they
same,
don't
yeah.
care where it is. So that's why I say it kind of depends. Are you to the point where you're only working with the MSBA to get the building built, or are you,
No.
you know,
Yeah,
you're
we're
still
before
having
that.
to convince the community to?
Yes,
Wow, or before that, too.
yeah.
Is it appropriate to say, I have heard that he has an outstanding reputation in PBD? People have given me that feedback.
Well, and he said, call up,
Anybody?
anybody.
Yeah.
He's got the mayor of Peabody on his reference list, so.
Well, who
Oh,
calls
really?
if we want to call references?
That guy's.
Is that a chair thing? Is that a chair
Mayor
function
of PBD.
to check references?
Well, when
Yeah, I mean,
when
they
would we
came
do
in
the
and let
checking of references? Would we do that, or would you do that?
We both do it. I mean, the
Okay.
names are public. You can talk to anybody in the world that you want to
Okay.
about them.
Any other comments on?
I think one thing that I liked, I guess kind of going back to Bill, is he kind of brought up saying, and then also Herb, they both brought up two different points of like, what Herb said, bringing up an idea of what we could do for the school district if we don't already do it, like a climate study, like what are parents, how do the parents see us doing in the school district? I mean, but it's just to bring an idea forward when, talking, as giving an idea as opposed to just answering the question, which I liked. And Bill also had said, he also talked about, strategic plan. So just want to bring those two things up, that was something, they kind of brought up as an idea, as opposed to just straight answering our questions as well, which is, kind of giving a solution or an idea of like, here's some things that I could bring to the table, or have you thought about this?
I liked Herb when he said, do no harm.
Yeah, I liked that,
Sorry, I
too.
couldn't, what'd you say?
When Herb, his first thing, he said, do no harm,
Do no
Yeah.
harm, yeah.
one of the goals.
Yeah.
Um,
I thought that was very insightful, yeah.
Well, he's not sugarcoating it, he's just putting it straight, out on
Yep.
the table. And I think as a school committee, we did glean some things from him, talking about the climate, doing a gauge of the community every couple of years. I thought that was great
Yep.
for him to, offer that, and we should take note of that, too, moving
Yep.
forward. So,
All right, how about Susan or Dr. Kuska?
I thought so she would definitely bring that educator part to the job. She clearly has sort of the management, operational skills that are necessary. So I thought those were positives.
She reminded me a lot of the educational leaders that I run into within city year. Very, very passionate in, a student-centric way. So obviously, that's near and dear to my heart. So that I thought that was outstanding. I am, a little more reserved about the lack of, regional or superintendent experience. Not that it couldn't be handled, but, excuse me, sort of just coming in off the street, jumping in with both feet and just, taking off running. It's a little concerning. Again, I think she would be able to handle it, but it's a concern.
And she was very vocal about wanting to be a permanent.
Right.
I mean, and I appreciate that she did not pretend that she wasn't.
Right.
Yeah.
Well, and if this were to be an interim, and you know, obviously, if she were to be interim here, she could apply, because
Right.
we've made that decision.
Yep.
But just being an interim gives you a step up for whatever,
Right.
maybe you're going to apply to be a superintendent somewhere else, you know, so.
And she took the time to research the district.
She
had
did,
members.
yeah.
Yep.
She really did. She was the only one that really, some of the other candidates had said, you know, your demographics aren't quite the same, but she had details around it, so she'd definitely done her homework.
You know, the issue of the demographics actually is I've been thinking about this a little more too, because, you know, the fact that we're a regional district is a big deal. But the fact that we're predominantly, I don't necessarily think, I don't know what we characterize ourselves, but I know Hamilton characterizes itself as a rural community generally, rural suburb of Boston, whatever they call it on the website. That actually is a pretty, it's a, haven't been a city boy or haven't, you know, grown up in a city, large cities, you know,
that's
outside
right.
of Los Angeles, like, it's a pretty big deal to
Right.
sort of
Right.
come and manage any kind of municipal, you know, thing for a rural community versus a city, or even a suburban town, right? That's a pretty, so whenever the candidates talked about the demographics, I thought that was, makes a difference.
It does.
It does, and I mean, just to identify that, I think it was McAuliffe that came from Acton Boxborough
Yeah,
last year.
yeah.
Right, you know,
Yeah.
they click a lot of the same, check a lot
Yeah,
of the same boxes.
they're close,
we do.
yeah, they're very close to us.
And Dover Sherburne.
Yeah.
He had Dover Sherburne. He also was at King Philip, which is on our DART comparison in Acton
Yeah.
Boxborough, so.
Yeah. Which are all very good schools.
And they're all very good school districts, yeah. Not to say that PBD is not. I'm just
Yeah, but
saying.
I
Are we
mean,
going back to the other two?
No, so I think.
No, we're not.
No.
If you recognize, if
We're not.
you've been in there and you recognize the similarities in,
Yeah.
you know,
Okay.
socioeconomic status.
Yeah,
and,
it's a big deal. It's a,
You know, a lot of things like that. Without having to go into detail, you know, you could say the same thing. In, you know, as, you know, Susan's saying, oh, well, I went through
Yeah.
and, you know,
Yep.
noticed that you're hitting a lot of your benchmarks for special education. You know, I know she was really concentrating on that, you know, really having that background.
That's true, that was unique.
Yep.
yeah.
I think Dr.
special
Kritzko
education.
would be, if it were a superintendent's position,
Right.
I think should be outstanding.
Oh, yeah. I
Because
agree.
I feel like
I
with
agree.
all she brings to the table, she needs that 5-10 years to really
Right.
Yeah, oh, yeah.
strategic planning, and I felt like, oh, you know, I know she needs that step. It's like, just too bad that,
Right.
you know, there wasn't, you know, I think she's better off, in my opinion, suited in, you know, a superintendent where she can really do, she's,
Oh, she's gonna
Outstanding.
Yeah, I can't,
help
she,
some, she's
yeah.
really gonna help a
she's
lot
gonna-
of kids.
yeah,
Yep. She's coming from like, she lives in Marshfield.
Yeah.
right,
That's a hike,
yeah, in Weymouth, where she teaches.
Does?
yeah.
Yeah, she lives in Marshfield.
Right now, she lives in Marshfield, she's in Wayland, which I still,
But
I don't
her
know.
curriculum background is attractive, as well as
Yep.
the special needs support. To me, that's,
Yeah, she has a lot of strong points in her favor, for sure.
You could see it almost like wanting to bust out of her too.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah, it did want to
I mean,
bust
so
out
we
of
would,
her.
we would be a stepping stone for her,
Right.
whereas the other two are a layover in Baltimore. You
Right.
know, just
Yeah, oh, yeah.
off to Hawaii or wherever. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Just, so,
And then Jeff. You know, we all know Jeff for the most part. I think he's obviously bringing the most clear continuity to the situation, which is a really strong point.
zero learning curve.
So-
Knows the district intimately.
Right.
He has the support also of the union.
Right. Oh, no, and there was a lot of calls.
John Koch.
Yeah. I mean, again, also thinking about, you know, how challenging this year's budget, or the FY '20 passing, getting the FY '20 budget passed, '21 is not going to be any easier.
Right.
I mean, having.
Knowing that,
Knowing-
he already knows that.
knowing, Yeah, knowing the FinComs, knowing how we budget, knowing what our priorities are. I mean, that learning curve is,
Steep.
Right.
it's steep for a lot of people.
But I don't know if this is correct to ask this. What would happen if he has the interim, and then we hire someone else? Does he step back into his role, or does he reapply? What's that?
Didn't he, I think he spoke to that directly.
No, I don't think that's what Peter's asking. He's saying if, at the end of the year,
Right.
what happens?
Does he get to fall back into his
Well, we have to.
role now?
we
I
have
think
to-
that'd be a legitimate question to ask him. I think,
Right.
You know,
At the next
like, what's
step.
what's
We
the
have to figure out
plan?
where he is in his contract, right?
Yeah.
He's in the same place that he and Mike have the same expiration date, because that's what the school committee, prior to
Had
when I was
voted-
on it,
They had voted on
Whenever
it
you
to extend,
negotiate a
he
contract
wanted
anyway.
it to be the same as Mike's, so he has the same expiration
So
as
his
Mike's.
expiration is next June, but I don't know what his notification, it's not our role to notify whether or not he stays, so I don't know if he has a notification
Right.
thing the way the superintendent does.
Typically, if an administrator steps into a different role in their contract, it allows them to go back to their original role.
Yeah.
Okay, that's the
Oh.
After
question.
the temporary.
Yeah.
And what I also liked about that, when he said him, if he were to get the position, it would allow people underneath him to grow into that position.
That was a very unique way to describe what the process would be.
Right.
And I think that,
Because there will be gaps when he moves up.
Yeah.
I mean, he can't do both jobs.
That's the only way
No,
you can
he
get
definitely
promoted
can't,
is-
and
Sorry.
Yeah,
that's
go
it.
on.
No, in my management experience, the only way I was able to get promoted is I grow people around me to take my spot. Otherwise, the company could never
Yeah.
get rid of me, or promote me, rather. So
Yep.
it's a proper attitude to have, is grow the people under you.
And what, I do have to say, I do have a concern, with Jeff just as an interim, because in the past, and this is because of past experience, we had put assistant superintendent into, as an interim superintendent, and it was kind of a disaster.
Well, was it personality or role? I'm just
The
wondering.
role, he wasn't qualified for the
Okay.
role.
Right.
And not to say,
I think there was more to it than that, because I also think, like what he talked about, like, so, and obviously you lived here at that time too, that, that person was sort of doing the two jobs with Vinnie sort of growing up and doing some more things than he would have. And so that kind of left this weird void, but I think there was, I think it was multiple things that
There was
included
there
that
was a
sort of like
void, so
transitional
it
thing,
kind
that
of-
void thing.
I mean, but one thing we have to
And
recognize.
it was following up a bad
just-
superintendent
one thing we
situation.
have
It
to
wasn't following
recognize
up a
the fact
calm
that
situation.
Jeff has been in the position of assistant superintendent, which rebuilt that broken process, to get it to where it is now, right? It's a much different situation we're looking at now versus 10 years ago? about
No.
that?
no, it
Six.
was only 6 years ago, but
So,
no.
well, Mike's been here for
no, I
7
under-
years.
Okay,
So
so
it's
it's
been at
Seven
least
years.
8.
7 years then.
So
Mike
Mike's been
repla-
here for 7 years, so that means it was at least 8 years ago.
That person was the superintendent when Mike took over.
So, which would be 8 years ago.
So, yeah.
So I'm just saying that it was just a void, trying to take on too much, and that's,
Right. And he did address that, which was
Yeah, I think
good.
just a pretty
he
common.
acknowledged
but-
that that's,
so, but I mean, he tried to grow people too. I'm just saying, and it just didn't fill the void, and I know we're in a much better position, but I'm just saying that's one of my concerns is that, we still have to then develop and fill that void there too. So I'm just saying, from what happened in the past, it was kind of
I'm
a hard
not,
situation.
I'm not a fan of holding people back that should be able to move up
Right.
because you
No.
can't fill in behind.
well,
No, I
and I think
understand.
he made it very clear, one, that he can't do two jobs, and two, he's clearly stated, he has ideas about who would be filling that void, and although that might, whether that comes to fruition or not, this is something he's been thinking about.
Right.
Yep.
And
And
he
we,
does
I mean,
have-
I feel confident with the people under Jeff that things are running smoothly. So I think in his mind, he might have a plan and try to facilitate and helping make that work. But he was very, he said straight out, I can't do two jobs, you know, and this is separate and distinct, so. And I agree with Michelle that you can't hold people back because you don't know what's going to happen in their absence of the old role.
And he does have his finger on the pulse. So
Right.
he
Yeah,
knows
very
what's,
much so.
he knows what to expect or
Yeah, from who, what can be expected
yes,
from who.
yep, yep. I think one of his, if he were to get this position, one of his biggest challenge would be to, instead of being the man behind the curtain, now to be up front and center. He's going to be the face of the district.
Yep.
So that would probably be his biggest challenge, but obviously, it's a role he'll know he knows he'll have to play, and he'll do it. He hasn't had to do it now, so.
Yeah, I think he knows what he's getting into. I mean, working
yeah,
with Mike
he's-
so
He's
closely,
already
right?
really, he already works with most of the stakeholders.
Yeah.
Really, it would be, the parental part that, a lot of people probably don't realize
Yeah.
who he is.
Right.
But,
He works with parents, though. I've heard him
excuse me?
talking.
Oh, no, he does,
Yeah,
but I'm
he's
saying,
just
I
not-
think that's where,
right.
because obviously the Wenham town manager won't know him, but, everyone else, all the other stakeholders already know him. So that part would be, there would be no transition at all. It would just be a little bit more,
Parents and the
right.
Yeah.
student.
And he clearly already has his finger on the union contracts and the Long Meadow issue, and
And
those are
Yeah,
right
the
front
thing
and
is that,
center.
even though we're looking for interim in the next year, like we can't lose momentum. I mean,
Right.
there's
Correct.
so
Right.
many things that need to keep moving forward. Like that's to me that is key. Not that don't screw something up and keep the momentum going. Like it's huge because we're at a cusp of doing something big.
Right.
And
And
moving
it's-
forward.
Yeah.
Literally
And I
a
don't think he
finger,
has any
right.
designs on being a superintendent. He's said that, correct? Did I mishear that? Not being a
No,
super.
I
you know,
did not
he's
hear
sort of-
that.
He's
You
sort
didn't hear
of
that?
an enigma in that way, that, my personal thoughts, which I've shared a couple times, is I think he would eventually, because that's his personality, he's sort of an alpha, he's an achiever, that I think at some point he would want to do that. And but at the same time, I know he's very vested in his family right now, as his girls are finishing high school, and he's only got a few more years before, before that. So while it wouldn't surprise me either way, but, he hasn't also really tipped his hand either way. But, sounding from what he had said tonight, that, that it seems like he's interested because he's vested in what he's built, the home he's built
Yeah.
here in the district.
Yep.
And keeping that
You
running.
can hear?
No, I can't really hear him.
So,
Speak up.
I've never
It's been a
had
long
that.
6 years here. I don't think he's just all that willing to get to walk away from it that
Right.
easily.
Right.
Well, I mean,
That
he-
quickly.
he-
I don't know. That's just my thoughts.
He's part of the, what he built, part of the building crew that built something great here. And, I think that's his main driving factor, is that, this is a home he built, and he does take pride in that. Excuse me. So I think that's a big plus in what's motivating him at this moment. Anyone have anything else? All right, why don't we go down the list? Down the table, and have everyone pick their top two.
It's hard.
And, and then I think that can help us with the process. Want to start, or I'll start? I don't mind if I could start. I would go McAuliffe Sands.
We going down the line?
Bill
Are you
McAuliffe is
keeping
the
track?
first one.
I'll keep track.
I would go with McAuliffe Sands.
I would say McAuliffe and Levine.
I would go with McAuliffe and Levine.
So with McAuliffe and Levine, they're interim, and they really know they're interim. They really have the one-year mindset, right? Because they've already had a long career, retired, and just, that's attractive.
I'll go with Sands and Levine.
You're gonna go with McAuliffe and Sands?
And who?
Sands?
Okay.
It's you, Peter.
Oh, this is hard.
Yeah.
Well, I'm sorry, I thought you had already gone, I'm sorry.
No, I was,
No.
Oh, sorry.
I think you,
I don't think you minded.
yeah,
yeah,
I think he was
It's
relieved.
like ordering dinner, isn't it, at a restaurant? Decisions.
exactly, at the Cheesecake
I'll have the
Factory.
cheeseburger.
Yeah, right.
Are we in a rush here? Do I have time? Am I on a time clock? Is there?
It's only your
time?
children's
have tonight.
education.
Yeah,
all
right.
right? Nothing to be stressed about.
Four, 3.
Oh, and your home value, sorry.
Yep.
I'm sorry, what was that?
Home value.
And your home value.
I know, I'm looking. 8,
I liked Dr. Kuska a lot.
11. Okay.
I guess Levine and Sands. Although Dr. Kuska.
All right, so we have 5 for McAuliffe, 4 for Levine, and then 5 for Sands. Dr. Kuska is an outstanding candidate, just not the proper fit for this interim position. And I definitely, if someone does not pick her up in the meantime,
Right.
strongly encourage her to when we're doing our permanent search.
I agree.
Yeah.
She was a good candidate. She really was a good candidate. It's just not for our district, for us.
Would almost be a disservice to lock her in for only a year.
Right.
Because she, like you had said, Michelle, she needs to hit the ground running and can really service the district for a long period of time.
Can I ask a question? If McAuliffe is in the running for another
So-
interim superintendent, what do we do if,
Well, that's what I was actually just going to mention, the fact that if Levine and McAuliffe are the finalists over at
Marblehead.
Marblehead?
Right. We stand a chance of having our pick
So why
snug.
don't we just move these 3 forward?
All 3 of them?
Yeah.
Because it's so close.
Yeah.
So,
It's so close.
Right.
because.
One of these
just
could
because-
fall out.
Well, I was just going to say, because there seems to be some interest in Kuska, you wouldn't consider putting her in and thinking, well, this is and saying, this is, you're welcome to apply for there's no guarantee, but you would be welcome to apply for the.
Regular.
Oh, she absolutely could.
Right.
Yeah.
Oh, definitely she
We
could.
had already made that decision, but I
Yes.
think what we're saying is that we're not convinced
Yep, okay.
that.
Will you convey that to her?
Yeah,
That'd be great.
So I
So,
think we had,
yeah, I mean-
pursuant to our schedule, we said we were narrowing it down to 2 finalists. Does that matter?
Well, I think with.
I don't.
No, I know we said 2, but at the same time, I'm concerned, there's a decision being made on
And
the
another.
9th
Yeah.
at another school district that one could fall through and that,
Then you'd just be left with one candidate, which oftentimes is a failed search, and you start over again. And
Yeah.
so this way, we can protect ourselves
So.
by having 3.
So if I get it, if I have the strategy correct, we're interviewing the 3 of them on the 8th. Marblehead will make a decision on the 9th, and that will allow us to deliberate more
the 10th.
effectively on the 10th.
Correct.
I also think it will allow us to get our first, if one of them are their first candidate and also our first candidate, I think it'll give us the opportunity to still get our first candidate.
Yeah.
Now, if our first candidate isn't their first candidate, then it wouldn't matter, but we don't know that today,
Yeah.
Right.
but we would know that in the future. Yeah.
Okay.
I mean, I've had that experience. I mean, I've had that experience when we hired the, what do you call it, the middle school principal here. There were 3 candidates at the beginning of the day. At the end of the day, there was one, and that one ultimately wasn't hired. So,
In a permanent search, very often we advise 3 to 5.
Yeah.
And the reason we say 3 rather than 2 is so that if one drops out, it's not the last man standing, and you really.
yeah.
And I think we should do that even for the interim and not have it as a failed interim type of search, just because
Or
of
a
the fact. Default, just for the fact of what's going on with Marblehead.
There's information that you didn't have when you said 2. right?
Is-
Yes,
Right.
we did not know that when we had made that decision,
And
yeah.
Marblehead, I'm assuming, is an interim?
Yes.
So,
I'm okay with it.
okay.
It might be
So-
kicking 3.
So my question earlier that I wrote
Protect-
down,
we're
that I
protecting
wanted,
ourselves.
a question that I had earlier that I wanted to ask was, who is notifying the candidates and how will they be notified and when?
Carrier pigeon.
Is that usually?
Are you looking at me?
Well, I'm asking you,
Notify
is
the
that something
candidates, I
you
would
would usually
notify-
do? Or is that something,
Either way, either I can do it, one of you can do it. I would do it tomorrow morning, and line up decide tonight, what are your time slots?
Yeah.
And then we'll fill the slots.
Okay. So, we cut back our regular meeting, but
Now it's.
Now it's
Gonna be
3.
9:30 night
Mhm.
again.
well, no, if you do, if you still do 45 minutes, then it could be 7:45, and then maybe do 8:45. And you'd be done by 9:30-ish, 10, and then deliberate and maybe decide by 10:30.
No.
Well, we
No,
wouldn't
we're
wait until the
deliberating on
10th.
the
We
10th.
celebrate
Yeah,
on
so we
Sunday,
would
on
do it by
Friday.
9:30, yeah, sorry.
Slow the train.
Back the truck up.
Okay.
You were the one that wanted to sleep
I
on it.
do want to sleep on it, that's why I was getting all nervous.
Okay, so is that settled?
Yeah. Oh,
Yes,
I'm sorry.
but we haven't figured out who's going to do it.
Who's going to do what?
Who's
Tell
going to
them?
notify them? Should we have Dorothy do it? Or,
She said, we make the slots and she notifies the candidate.
Yeah, I
Oh, is that?
So if you're interviewing 3,
Yeah.
right, and you're 45 minutes,
Mhm.
so you really want to allow an hour,
Yeah,
right? So I don't think you want it 9, well, yeah, you could 7, 8, 9, 6, 5, 6.
well, I'm wondering if we could do 6:30 or
6:30,
6.
7:30, and
The
8:30.
earlier you start, the better. right?
Yes, 6:30, 7:30, and 8:30.
But then it means the people who sometimes have trouble need to know if they can do it or not, and if they can't, then they can't. That's okay too.
So do we agree upon that Dorothy will do it, just to be consistent with what she's been?
I'll
Yeah, I mean-
blanket till right at the end of the
Okay,
day.
great.
Yes, that would, yeah, I think consistency,
Now-
that would be great.
And is
The
the
light date,
intent to, you're going to notify them and say, you're a finalist, and by the way, come on Wednesday at X time? You can do that all in one communication to the finalists.
She fills the
So we
slots. That's
need
what she
to-
did
Yeah.
before for where we were narrowed down to this, whatever, the finalists.
So we need to determine timing right now.
Well, I mean, usually there's different nights involved, but I usually take the person who has the furthest to travel, call them first, and say, here's the 3 slots, which one do you want? And
Okay.
then-
Yeah,
That's fair.
that sounds fair. Okay. So those slots are,
Jeff will already be here.
yeah, but he sometimes has commitments where he needs to go home and come back, so
Okay.
it, yeah.
I make, you know,
So I
just,
mean, we could do 6:30, 7:30, 8:30. I
Well,
think that makes sense.
I don't want to put pressure on people who.
Oh, I'm sorry. Yeah, I've already ignored you.
If it's-
I just saw his, I just saw
If
his
it's not, I mean,
So, he's not going to be here.
I mean, it works fantastic for a lot of us, but it should work fantastic for all of us.
I gotta be honest, I don't think I can get here before,
Okay,
at 6:30.
so then we should do 7.
Can we knock them back 5 minutes to 40 minutes, have it, excuse me, 7:50, and then whatever the next 10 minutes after.
so you want to give like 5 minutes.
10
in
minutes
between
after, 40
instead of
minutes after
15
that.
minutes in between?
Yeah,
I
maybe
think
5
so.
minutes, yeah.
You'll just have to be conscious of the time and not
Yep.
let them go over.
Yep, I think we can do that.
Well, we know Jeff is.
Yeah, and none of them came close to going
Well,
over.
I think this should be definitely a little bit more dialogue.
Questions that have
Yeah.
More to it, okay.
Yep.
Pull more out, yeah. Okay.
So we're starting at 7?
Yeah.
Start at
Yes.
7,
And do-
7:50, and then whatever, 50 minutes after 7:50.
Yeah, it should be like
8:40.
8:40.
Okay.
Yeah.
So the 8th is there any regular committee
Business.
business to deal with?
No, we just tabled, we're pushing
I
all
would
the
table
22nd.
it,
Okay, we
all
don't
the
need to approve
business.
warrants,
Huh?
we don't need to
So
approve-
You got a
So
reprieve
warrant
there.
will be-
Shall we
Oh, they're already signed, right?
Shall we-
Okay.
divide up the question categories then?
Sure.
Well, I'm just going to run the minutes.
Okay.
I didn't hear what he said.
Needs a break.
Oh. Dorothy, thank you for doing all of this, because
Thank you so much.
all of us like have these daytime jobs, so it's not always easy for us to make those phone calls and make the connections, and it's very helpful. Thank you.
Thank you for guiding us through this, too.
Yes.
Oh, you're welcome. So 7:50.
So 7:47.
Yeah. And then 7:30. So they're on it. Tell them.
I hope that somebody doesn't listen to my conversation.
I'm going to listen to your conversation all
On
night
that,
long.
you know what I'm talking
I know
about
what
when
you're
you told
talking
me.
about. I know.
It's not too bad. I had interviews that started at so it's not.
There's a question here about teachers striking.
And then, you know, for
In
education.
Massachusetts recently.
No, no, it's not legal.
7:30.
I think this has been prepared by some other place, yeah.
DOE or something like that.
Or, yeah.
I would like, if possible, to, because it's particular area I'm particularly interested in and invested in, if I could ask a question about special education.
Okay.
And David wants technology.
Yes.
Wow.
Where are the big categories right here? Oh, technology, ethics and practice.
So you're taking technology.
So do we agree that that's one of the key things we'd like to discuss with our incoming interim superintendent?
What's that?
Technology, would that be a key?
We do need an IT plan.
I think,
Just think, once again, you have to think of, you know, this is a short-range focus. so
Yeah.
that
Right,
might-
so that's
And
why
I don't
I'm
know,
asking
do we
that.
need technology as for an interim? I mean, I can see it for
That's-
permanent, but,
That's what I'm asking, if everyone agrees that.
well, that's what
it's-
I'm saying, that I'm thinking it's more for a permanent search question. I mean, I'd like to see building projects, capital improvements, because that's something we're working
Right.
on.
and maybe even 2 questions. Maybe 1 question.
Yeah. I can ask, you know, I'd like that, so I can ask that, if people are if that's,
In what? Which category?
building projects and capital improvements.
I would take something like, either something in budget and finance, or the one before that, school committee, basically town relations.
I think that's important.
I think that's
So-
important, that's what you,
And
the
I like
latter.
One or the other is fine, I can take like one or the other or both, because they kind of go together, but not.
We can
Budget
probably.
and relationship goes together, but finance is something different,
Right.
so.
We can probably, I would imagine we could come up with two distinct
I do
questions.
too. Okay.
So, do you have a preference?
I'll take the school committee, community relations. So we'll put these three might go together, or
Yep.
these two might go together.
The communications and school committee relations
Or
you're talking
public
about?
relations.
Public relations, somehow the three of them kind of seem to be
They can.
together. Can.
I'll take meeting the needs of all students.
I
That's
already
what
took
Karen
that.
has.
Oh, you
But
did?
you could,
See,
you could,
that's what you get for leaving the table. Unless you really, really want it.
No, because the way you wrote it down, I agree with you, so.
Just so, Michelle, you're taking communications,
I'll tell
public
you what I'm
relations,
thinking.
and school committee relations?
no, I'm just saying I can take, I would prefer the school committee relations, and it would also like be, I'll put something in there with the town together.
Okay.
But communications and PR could be in there, but it doesn't have to be.
Do you see that, though, as all being under the same umbrella, though? It just seems like it makes sense. I was just hoping that you would say, okay, I'll do all three.
It can be, it absolutely can be.
Perfect.
If other people want to make,
Yes, we committed you.
if other people want to get more meaty about one of those, then we could break it off.
No, I think it would be great, those three together.
Yes.
Okay. So,
Can I make just a suggestion about the number of topics that you pick?
yep,
Just thinking the way these went, and thinking, so if it's 40 minutes and you have about 10 questions, that's 4 minutes a question. So I would think you could get to about 10. I also think that whatever topic you pick, particularly some of the more general ones, have a backup question.
Just in
case
case.
you find that somewhere along the way, your question really got answered. So that you
Yeah.
can
Okay.
ask something
Okay.
different.
Is it possible for us to design the questions, have a general question, but each candidate, you can design it for them?
Yeah, like-
Jeff's question is going to be different
Right.
than Herb's, so is that possible within the?
Yeah, I mean, in some senses, you want to have some basis
Continuity.
that you have some comparison.
Yep.
So, yes, you
You
can
can
alter
tailor.
it, tailor it. You can also, especially if time allows, if the answer engenders a follow-up, then you just ask the chair, can I ask a follow-up?
I think that's a very good strategy, because you can anticipate what someone would answer, but it's way better to ask a question that follows up on what they actually answer. Yeah. Yeah. Like, there were things I wanted to ask Jeff tonight, because his answers were short, to get more information.
no dialogue.
I know, that's what I said.
Yeah, I
That's
know.
why I
Yeah, I
didn't,
know.
so.
Because we weren't doing dialogue, so some of them you want it more in depth.
Right.
But I guess to Dorothy's point then, these are more open-ended questions, and that's what we want, to get more dialogue from them. For open-ended.
Okay.
There's a lot of open-ended questions in
Yeah.
there.
Okay.
So I think that
David, which one did you, I'm sorry.
I pulled out, even though I might go back, because now I'm wondering if, we're sitting here looking at a list of, possible, and obviously this is just a suggestion, a suggested list, right? And I'm looking at this list, I'm like, oh, well, I don't want to ask a question about that. I wouldn't.
So what I'm trying to think now is what are individual needs of our district looking forward for the next year? And then we can tailor questions based around our needs, right?
Well, I was just going to suggest the collective bargaining relationship with unions is,
We just closed 2 contracts and we get another one going right now. You know, so
no,
is it,
Is
is
it-
it really important or is it
Yeah.
not, right? Because at the same time, anything could go awry
Yeah.
Right.
in those contracts, so
It's important not to have grievances.
that's what I,
Yeah.
Well, that's, I think leadership and management is a topic that should be discussed, because we need to keep our leadership team intact.
right.
We need to make sure all of the parties are heard from, and this
I mean, I
person
think I'll take, you know what, I'll take that. I'll take leadership,
okay.
and management.
yeah.
Okay.
I mean, yeah, they're intertwined. And if someone else has another specific management question, go for it, because I can almost guarantee you we won't be thinking along the same things. It's a really vast topic, and as you just were speaking, and I actually had a decent train of thought.
Well,
Is curriculum and instruction, I mean, the strategic plan should be there, so I don't think that's really,
It's actually
that's
not.
two
That was
different
one of Mike's goals, that he,
What was that?
that's, the strategic plan was actually one of Mike's goals to complete this year, and I think he's not going to do it, but it's based on the
At
fact
the
that
last
he's.
check-
And that's
At
what
the
Bill
last
actually noted, there wasn't a strategic plan that was up.
Correct.
That he could find, so that's,
So you'd still be operating off of like the last one.
but I thought that was in the works, no?
I thought it was too, but at the
Yeah,
same
I-
time,
There's not much
that's
time
really only a
left.
placeholder at the moment.
But that strategic plan expired in 18, correct? Or,
No. Yeah, but even if Mike leaves, has one as he's leaving, you know, that would really just be sort of maybe a rough blueprint for the next year, because I would imagine an incoming superintendent would want to, you know, be looking at that as an opportunity to bring in their own strategic plan. I mean, maybe they would run off the existing one for a year, just while they're getting the feel for the community, their
okay. So curriculum and instruction wouldn't be relevant then for,
It could be. I mean, it really depends on this, because I was looking at that too, you know, but I mean, at the same time, Peggy really handles most of that.
Yeah.
So it's a, you know, it's more of a management. How are you going to, you know, manage,
yeah,
you know, Peggy running that CNI?
and that falls under your questions, leadership and management.
But again, that's what I'm saying is it's a very, very broad umbrella, so that there's plenty of room for other questions.
So I'll pick a budgeting finance question. But I kind of also do want to ask about like how the school committee operates with the towns.
Well, so there's,
Something similar to what the direction you're going,
There's-
Michelle, but.
there's a question under communications that kind of I circled, and I'll make sure is included.
What page is that on?
It's on page 15, question number 2, under communications. Is that what you were thinking of? I mean, that one is not specific to budget, but it, you know, that's often how we work with the towns, is around budget.
Yeah, I mean, yeah,
Is that what you were,
it's sort of. I mean, it definitely gets to one of the issues. I just want to, my big thing with the towns and the district is really, how do the other elected officials value the schools? right?
Right.
And then how do you, because no one's going to say, oh, the schools are,
So that was.
well,
awesome.
I'm sure some people would say that the schools are a financial black hole, right?
Well, did you see the question number 3 right under it?
I like that one, too.
Yeah, Levine talking about.
Is that along the lines sort of where you're, or is there something in budgeting that you're thinking is important?
Yeah, I guess it's more sort of like, how do you address how would you approach getting the support of the town's select boards and FinComs to support so they
Well,
really kind of.
That's 7A, under
Okay.
budget and finance.
Oh, there you go, okay.
I mean, the introduction there is a little bit,
Oh, okay, yeah.
but yeah, it's there.
Okay, all right, so maybe I'll just, okay. Why don't I just take the
And actually, 7B goes into that same thing, and 7C.
yeah, so what I'll do this, I'll take Dorothy's suggestion. I'll just stick with the budgeting and financial
Okay.
part, and then come up with a couple questions in case they're answered in your part,
Okay.
Michelle?
It probably won't if you get specific on it, but that's
Yeah.
great, yeah, super.
That way we won't double up.
I think I'd like, if it's okay, handle the planning and organization. And again, for Herb and Bill, they're going to be similar, but Jeff, it will be a bit more detailed. And maybe that's when he'll share his plan with us. So Dorothy, do you think, so 2 questions perhaps per topic? No, so if we pick one,
Well, I think.
one with the backup?
Yeah.
Which one are you okay.
Unless there's not 10 topics, then you
Okay.
double up.
Yep.
It sounds like you've done a little bit of that anyway. Budget sounds like.
Can you
so-
tell us about any experience you may
Tackling
have
it.
planning and
Really? You're gonna
renovating?
read it into the mic?
Thank you.
Literally. Like, what do I have to do with her?
I know.
It's unbelievable to me.
What number?
Number 1, page 21. You're gonna have to slap me.
Go on.
Okay.
Budget based.
What kind of questions are under ethics and practice of administration?
Yeah, Peter, you're again, the
What are you
last
doing,
one.
Peter?
I know. You got to pick up the pace, buddy.
Come on, let's go.
Listening.
No, but it's your turn to
Don't let us
decide what
beat
you're
up
going
on
to
you.
talk, yeah.
My last?
I mean, yeah,
I'm looking under teaching and learning,
oh,
That's good,
that's,
okay,
either that or curriculum instruction.
okay.
Oh, that's north.
Michelle, are
Wait,
you
would you-
asking three questions, or you're trying to combine
I
3 topics into
think
one
there'll be like
question?
a question and a follow-up, or maybe, but I can make 2 questions.
And I'm going to do 1 question.
So.
do you want me to read
School
down what I
committee
have?
relations and communications.
Sorry, say again?
So communications, public relations seems to have a lot of the same types of questions. But I think it's more school committee relations and communications is where the questions are
So
calling
that
out.
could easily be 2 different questions,
Yeah,
right? That
I
could
can
be-
do that. I can put
Mahala,
together 2.
you got mine, right?
Building projects, capital improvements?
Dying to read these ethics ones. These are hilarious.
Which one are you doing, Peter?
I'm torn between teaching and learning and curriculum instruction. There's some overlap there, because some of the curriculum instruction covers teaching and learning.
So, like I said, at that point, it's, think about what you'd like to see specifically regarding our, our district next year. And that's, obviously they'll overlap, but that's definitely the mindset I'm taking.
Although, at the end of the day, I think it might have been Herb
Excuse me.
who said,
Sorry.
when I asked the question, what's the difference between a permanent and interim? And he said, nothing.
Right. Yes.
And he made an excellent point when he said that.
He's
Yeah.
right.
Because at the end of the day,
I'm your superintendent.
he's in the role, so.
He's what?
He's in the role.
Yep.
It's him. So I agree that we obviously want to pull out the really important pieces of what we need over the next year, but also, like, what are they going to be like in the role?
Yep.
Like, what's their day-to-day? They're still going to be our superintendent, they're going to be the face of the district. We need to, like,
So something about how they're going to lead the teaching.
yeah.
So David, you're
Or
thinking,
community, I'm sorry.
you're thinking teaching and learning and curriculum is too long-term of a,
No,
No.
I'm not.
No,
What I'm
he's-
saying, though,
he was
is
trying
if
to
you're,
think of something.
where it's such a broad topic, I'm just trying to help you narrow down
Yeah.
what you would
Narrow
want to,
down
and
what
I'd
you
say,
would like to
think
see.
specifically,
well, yeah, mine is a long-term strategy.
so,
So
but
you
I don't
wanna
think.
think for the
But I don't
interim.
think we're necessarily, and this is me, I don't think we're necessarily looking at long-term strategy.
Yeah.
Well, that's what I know, that's where I'm torn here. It's-
So what moves you for this next, what are you think about, what are you interested in seeing from a candidate of that, which would be just the 1 year?
Slash off budget.
The strike off.
Jeez.
Well, I mean, you don't have to.
You don't have to pick the
specify it
questions
now,
now, you
right.
just pick the
We're
category.
just trying to
Right.
sort
Pick the
of
category.
delegate, so
Yeah, all right.
I don't want you to feel,
So can we just leave it broad that he'll pick something from one of
Yeah.
those two categories?
I mean,
Teaching and learning or
I'm sorry,
curriculum
I don't know what
instruction.
it is.
Or pick one from each.
One from each. Or I could combine them.
Yeah. And you can think about it, just be ready for that next week, yeah.
Yep,
Okay.
yep, or assessment and data.
Oh.
The candidates.
Excuse me?
Do what?
You want to make a motion for the candidates?
Did you come up
Yes,
with that
we
yourself?
should,
Yes.
because
I can do that.
didn't have a consensus.
Yep.
Vote, yeah.
I move that the Hamilton Wenham Regional School Committee move, sorry, all sign, William McAuliffe, Herb Levine, and Jeffrey Sands to finalist positions for May 8th.
Second.
All those in favor? I was just making sure all the bases were covered.
And that was unanimous.
All right, so now we're thinking, we're just gonna take these, go live our best lives,
Yes.
and be back on next Wednesday for the,
I move that we adjourn at 9:16.
Second.
any discussion?
All in favor?
All those in favor? I can do that, thank you. Now
Let's
I'm
go.
not gonna vote
I
to
want
adjourn.
out.
All those
You're
opposed?
moving.
I am opposed to adjourning right now.
Well,
Okay,
you
fine.
are outvoted.
Then you can stay here at home.